What is up, weather enthusiasts? I'm your host, Pat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. Alright, so here's the situation we have for you, ladies and gentlemen. Hurricane Helene is expected to make landfall tonight in Florida in the Big Bend region. It is currently a major hurricane with winds of 125 miles per hour, according to the National Hurricane Center. And we also have other areas of interest. We have Tropical Storm Isaac in the subtropical Atlantic. We have an area of interest that is on the verge of developing out here in the main development region. And we have another area of interest from the Central America Gyre, tagged by the National Hurricane Center in the Caribbean Sea, expected to start organizing and developing in the next week or so. So let's go ahead and dive right into all of this right here. Obviously, the main focus will be on Helene, but I will also be taking more time to focus on Isaac as well as these areas of interest, as especially this area of interest does pose a great threat to land, and you have this area of interest out here that, in my opinion, looks like it could develop tonight. So this is going to be pretty interesting to pay attention to, and this is going to be more of a long-term threat that could impact the western part of the Gulf of Mexico, where those waters are more untapped. So let's go ahead and get right into it. We're going to start with, obviously, Hurricane Helene. Helene is rapidly intensifying at this current point in time. As you can see, maximum sustained winds are at 125 miles per hour. I personally think they are a bit higher at this current point, and we do have recon going in to confirm nor deny that suspicion. Minimum central pressure is 951 millibars. The pressure right now is plummeting in Helene. The pressure dropped 8 millibars in an hour before this advisory came out, thanks to a recon pass. We were at 959, now we're down to 951, and based on Dvorak estimates, which we will get to in just a second, the pressure could be even lower than that. So here's what we have going on right here. In regards to that, tropical hurricane force winds extend outward 60 miles from the center, and tropical storm force winds 310. Helene is a Category 3 on the Saffir-Simpson scale. Additional strengthening is expected, and Helene will likely be an extremely dangerous Category 4 hurricane at landfall. Weakening is expected after Helene moves inland, but fast forward speed allows for strong damaging winds, especially the gusts, to penetrate well inland in the southeastern United States. It's currently moving at 23 miles per hour, has about 7 hours or so before it makes landfall around midnight Eastern time, so we're going to have to pay attention to that as well. Here's the discussion that we have pulled up for you. Helene has rapidly intensified today while nearing landfall in the Florida Big Bend region. Doppler radar and aircraft data indicate that the eye wall is now completely closed and an eye has become more circular and is clearing out. The aircraft data has also indicated that the inner core has contracted significantly today, while the tropical storm force winds have expanded. Based on all this data, intensities at 110 knots. Latest minimum central pressure based on aircraft is 951 millibars. Tropical storm force winds are occurring across portions of the west central and southwestern Florida region, with conditions expected to deteriorate rapidly in the hurricane warning area over the next several hours. It should be emphasized that Helene is in the upper bound of hurricanes in terms of storm size and impacts, and will occur very well away from the center. Here's the juicy stuff right here. Helene has intensified by 30 knots since sunrise, and given the conducive environmental conditions and contracting inner core, it seems likely Helene will be at or very near Category 4 strength when it makes landfall in the Florida Big Bend this evening. And here's what we have going on right here. We don't really have a official forecast by the NHC as it's going to be inland, but we are expecting catastrophic storm surge up to 20 feet in some areas of the Big Bend region. Let's go ahead and pull that up right here for the storm surge, peak surge. 15 to 20 feet is expected for much of the Big Bend region, 10 to 15 feet from Apalachicola to the southern part of the Big Bend. Tampa Bay is currently getting flooding right now from storm surge. 5 to 8 feet max is expected, and you're also looking at a lot of surge pretty much going throughout the Big Bend region. That's going to be pretty catastrophic for a lot of these areas. This is going to be, regardless of category, a very powerful and very historic storm just based on storm surge alone. Also, we are expecting a very big flood risk right now. We have a high risk of flooding from the Appalachian regions of North Carolina all the way down to Tallahassee, and this is why right here. The rainfall potential, we're expecting another 6 to 8 inches of rain in Florida and another 12 to 16 inches potentially in parts of the Appalachian Mountains over there. So this is stuff we're going to have to pay very close attention to, and stuff we're going to have to take seriously, as inland flooding is going to be a very major threat with this. Storm surges are the number 1 threat. Wind is, at least right now, a very close number 2 threat, and flooding is a number 3 threat. All three of a combination of which is going to be really bad for a lot of areas in the southeastern United States. So that's what we're paying attention to right now in terms of Helene at this current point. Here's the cone that we have pulled up. Here's how large the tropical storm force winds pretty much encompass almost the entire state of Florida right now, including as far south as Miami and as far north as southern Georgia over here, as this hurricane is now expected to get up to Category 2 or Category 3 strength as it moves through Georgia, which the last time that has happened was Hurricane Michael back in 2018, and that part of Georgia does not have the infrastructure to support hurricanes because of how infrequent it tends to happen. Last time it happened was Michael, and before that it was a very long time ago. I believe they got impacts from Hugo of 1989 from that, but that was mainly Charleston, South Carolina at that current point. So we have a lot to talk about in terms of Helene. Here is what we have. Hurricane warnings extend all the way to central Georgia because of this new cone right here. If this continues to intensify at the rate it is, and it continues to go at the speed it's expected, I could definitely see those hurricane warnings extending even further up to the north, potentially towards the Atlanta metro area. So you're going to want to pay up close attention to it and keep very close tabs on it. That's what we have going on with Hurricane Helene so far in terms of the NHC. Here's what we have going on in terms of satellite. Look at this. The eye is pretty much symmetrical. The eye is very close to fully clearing out right now. This is all happening in the matter of a few hours with this. Here's the infrared right here. Yeah, the eye is pretty much cleared out, and it's pretty much filled in with all these minus 70 cloud top rings right here. And the satellite estimates have been screaming that this system is continuing to intensify. Heck, I might as well say it. This might already be a Category 4 hurricane, because here's what we have going on. We have recon going in right now. They're already about to get into the system right now. We'll keep you updated on it as we get more data from this. But here's what we have pulled up so far. Satellite estimates are going through the roof right now. This is what we have from Dvorak right here. Dvorak is estimating a pressure of 935 millibars, 936 if you round up, which the current forecast right now for the NHC is 951. It's currently at a level 6, which puts it at around minimal Category 4 intensity at this current point in time. And those just satellite estimates have been screaming all day. And how they derive this is basically by the structure of it, by the colder cloud tops, and overall how it looks on satellite. This hurricane looks pretty symmetrical right now as it's approaching the coast of Florida. And personally, this could get up to 140, maybe even 150 miles per hour at landfall. You guys got very lucky with Hurricane Idalia, because what ended up happening is, yes, it got to Category 4 strength, but then dry air got into the core and an eyewall replacement cycle started. And it rapidly weakened to 115, and the wind damage wasn't that much. There wasn't, thankfully, as much damage as feared in that part of Florida. You guys may not be so lucky this time, as Helene is really ramping up in intensity. Even if it stays a Category 3 hurricane at this current point, it's still going to cause a destructive amount of storm surge, a destructive amount of damage, a destructive amount of wind damage. It's going to really bring a lot of areas in Florida, it's going to cause a lot of problems for you guys over there. So you're going to want to pay attention to that area as well. This isn't the only storm we're tracking as well. We're also tracking Tropical Storm Isaac as well. It's now expected to get up to hurricane strength. It's mainly going to stay out to sea right here, but the fact that we're already seeing a stronger-ish tropical storm already in the subtropical Atlantic, and with everything else going on in the Atlantic, that's pretty concerning to say the very least. Winds are currently at 50 miles an hour. Pressure's 995. Here's it's expected to get up to a minimal hurricane in the next 36 hours as it approaches the Azores Island with that. So that might be a hurricane at some point down the road. We're going to have to pay very close attention to that. And it's also going to be something interesting to cover because the furthest north hurricane I've seen up to that point since I started doing this was Hurricane Dawn back last year when it was in the subtropical Atlantic in July. And Isaac might be another one of those classic examples of that. So that's also something we're going to have to pay attention to down the road. But we also have two other areas of interest that we need to keep very close eyes on as well. Here's the first one. Invest 98L now has a 90% chance of formation. It's most likely going to form tonight, as recent satellite imagery has really been kind of churning this thing out. So here we go. Showers and thunderstorms associated with an area of low pressure located several hundred miles west of the Cabo Verde Islands continue to show signs of organization. Recent satellite imagery suggests the system does not have a well-defined surface circulation. However, environmental conditions are expected to be conducive for further development. A tropical depression is expected to form later today or tomorrow, while the disturbance moves generally westward or west-northwestward at 10 to 15 miles per hour. The system is then forecasted to slow down and turn northward Friday and Saturday. You are now have a 90% chance of formation in the next 48 hours and 7 days. I think this could do it at 11 p.m. tonight. All the evidence is starting to show that. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and show you the satellite imagery with Invest 98L. Look how organized it is right now. Yes, it may not have a well-defined center just yet, but it's getting very close to it as of right now, and this is something we're going to have to watch. This does look like it could be a potential ace maker and a potential major hurricane out in the Atlantic Ocean that we're going to want to track for this season, and we're going to have to pay attention to it. However, the main threat that I am paying attention to outside of Helene is not Isaac or 98L. It's this area of interest that was just tagged just a couple of hours ago by the National Hurricane Center. An area of low pressure could form off the Western Caribbean by the middle of next week. Environmental conditions are expected to be conducive for slow development thereafter. While the system moves generally northeastward, this has a 20% chance of formation in the next 7 days. However, considering the fact that this is such a long-term threat and the NHC is already tagging this, they're not anticipating anything to start organizing and developing till Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. That should tell you how confident the NHC is that something's going to happen. And the reason I'm concerned about this is, yes, Helene is going to impact the eastern side of the Gulf of Mexico, but maybe this area of interest could impact the western side of the Gulf of Mexico, just like Texas and Louisiana. I was talking to Daniel. I was also talking to David Schlotthauer about this possibility, and they were telling me this looks like a potential threat as well. And take a look at where this is right here. This is another storm forming off the Central American Gyre. Helene was a Central American Gyre system. Look how powerful it is right now. It's a high-end Cat 3, potentially low-end Cat 4, according to satellite estimates at this current point. This is a very serious situation that's going to be impacting Florida, Georgia, the Carolinas, and Tennessee, and those areas right there. If this system organizes and develops like some models are forecasting it, Texas and Louisiana absolutely need to watch out for this, and we will continue to keep you updated on that flank here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel. Let's go ahead and take a look at what's been going on. We're going to show some operational runs with that in terms of not just Helene, but also this new area of interest as well. We're going to go ahead and start with the Europeans 12Z run as Helene makes landfall right there. I'm not even going to bother showing the models for a landfall when Helene goes over, because at this current point, it's outperforming the models, and they're having a hard time catching up to the system. And considering how quickly this is organizing, and this already has a pretty consolidated eye, and is really starting to ramp up in intensity, I'm not even going to look at the models right now. Look at how incredible this structure looks. This structure is about to close off as well in terms of this area of convection right there. That's going to completely close off and take this system even further up into the power rankings right here. As we continue to look at hurricane reconnaissance, more data is continuing to go in, so we'll have to pay attention to that as well. Let's go ahead and go back to the operational runs. European doesn't have the system organizing very like in the next few days or so. It has it start to organize and develop in the next 5 to 6 days or so, kind of like Tuesday or Wednesday. So for the NHC to tag it already is pretty concerning, to say the very least. And the European wants this to get to at least a strong tropical storm down the road. Over here. Matter of fact, I want to go ahead and move out to the entire Atlantic area right here because we have multiple systems to track as well. Let's go ahead and pull this in right there. What we have going on with this system right here, the Europeans being pretty conservative about it, wanting it to stay around a tropical depression or tropical storm in that part of the Atlantic Ocean right there. Let's go ahead and pull up the GFS right here. Here's the GFS as well. The GFS wants the system to get up to hurricane strength and then start to move out to sea right there. And then starting in the next 5 to 6 days, the Central American gyre wakes up again, has a system organizing and developing, makes a very close pass to the Yucatan Peninsula, and this time has it moving towards the western Caribbean Sea, having it stalling out over here near the Bay of Campeche, and then heading towards Mexico and Texas over there. First of all, I do not think that's going to happen. I do not see the systems just stalling out like that, because there are clearly steering currents that are going to drive the system one way or another. This is kind of fantasy land at this current point, but regardless of that, the GFS is really showing a strong system, and I want to see how consistent this is as well. The 0Z GFS also had something organizing and developing, although impacting Florida. 6Z GFS had the system organizing, although impacting further up to Florida and maybe causing more damage to where Helene is going to make landfall. And then the 12Z wants this completely in the western Gulf of Mexico. So this system is expected to organize and develop, but the track of it's a bit iffy at this current point. Next thing we'll show you is the Canadian model as well. Canadian has this system organizing and developing pretty quickly, heading towards Florida as well. I am curious to see how that's going to pan out. And I do want to check also check the runs that we're looking at in terms of the ensembles right here. Yeah, it has plenty of ensemble support. I will tell you that this new system in the Caribbean Sea has plenty of ensemble support as well. So it's definitely not out of the realm of reality for this to happen. And this the 0Z ensembles right there to back that. Okay, that's definitely not going to help us with that. I'm going to zoom out of this and then zoom back into this part over here. All right, but anyway, regardless of that, pretty significant model support with that. Let's go ahead and show you the European as well. Has significant ensemble support. So we're getting those ensemble support systems right there. So I just figured I'd show you that. So we need to say, hey, we need to pay close attention to this. So that's the CMC run right there. Let's go ahead and pick up the icon right here. Let's go ahead and see what the icon is going to do with this. The icon has the system developing in the next few days or so, and then heading towards the Bay of Campeche. It's going to take some time to iron out and take some time to do all that. But regardless of that, we are seeing Helene about to make landfall in the Big Bend region of Florida, getting better, having a better structure. The more and more we look at it, we're seeing this whole thing starting to finally close off. We're starting to see this system really make a final approach towards the Big Bend region. Landfall is expected around 11 p.m. to midnight Eastern time in that part, so we want to pay attention to that. Hurricane reconnaissance is currently in the system right now. We'll get you more data as it comes out, and we also have satellite estimates. Oh, dear Lord, the satellite estimates are really ramping up. They're already having this at a pressure of 931 millibars and a 140-mile-per-hour hurricane, according to Dvorak. Dvorak is really having the system explode at this current point, which is why we really need that recon to go out there and give us the data we need and give us the information we need to keep you covered with all this. Because if Dvorak is going this off right now, and every 30 minutes we're seeing another drop of 2 to 3 millibars, that's very concerning for me to take a look at right there. We're already at 6.2, which is just absolutely bonkers at this current point. This is a rapidly escalating situation that we are seeing in real time from Helene right here. And we're going to have to pay attention to it. We're going to have to pay attention to the 3 other systems we're watching out in the Atlantic. But the point is, the Atlantic is waking up. I told you guys this would be a very backlogged season. It looks like my warnings have finally borne fruit. And yeah, we're going to have to pay very close attention to it. We're going to continue we're going to continue covering Helene. We're going to cover this area of interest in the Caribbean. We're going to cover Isaac, and we're going to cover the AOI, as well as the tropical wave right afterward that we didn't get into just for the sake of time. So we'll keep you updated. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. It helps us out, helps us get more people engaged with weather. That is the goal with the Pat's Path Predictor channel. Also, shout out to Daniel as an official sponsor of the Pat's Path Predictor channel. He's been helping me out just with the streams. We had a really good stream on his channel last night to redirect everybody. You guys seem to really enjoy the quote-unquote after-hours show of it. So shout out to him. If you want to support me more directly and the channel more directly, be sure to join the Patreon. It's the first link in the description down below. If you wanted to come talk Tropics with us at Storms United, be sure to join the Discord server. The link to that is right over there. And with that being said, have a wonderful day, guys. Stay safe.